Hello gainers, Ralphie here with some Fitter Philosophy, and welcome to my Fitter Philosophy channel on YouTube, where I bring together some of the philosophical principles and ideas from around the world, primarily Stoicism, because it's so useful and so accessible as a philosophy, and I bring it into my experience of life. Because I have, to be honest, I know it doesn't look like it, but I've been around the block a few times and I've learnt a few things on the way. And my subject today is on what is valuable. And I'm going to go through the stages from childhood to adulthood, from those who do learn and those who don't learn. So when we're a kid, if we're shown a piece of gold or a gold ring and we're told it's valuable, our immature senses regard it as treasure. So it has some vague associated value, but it's not as valuable as ice cream or chips, because they are immediately accessible, identifiable and interpretable as children. Something that we're not really aware of as children, but in time we get to know the true value of, is the love, the care, the attention and the investment that we get from one parent or two, or perhaps if we're lucky, extended family and a good few close friends. That's certainly valuable. But as we grow up, particularly when we go to school, which is the society's indoctrination factory, and it has to be, I'm not meaning that in a negative context, I'm meaning that in a realistic context. But when we go to school, we are then encouraged to identify value as wealth and earning money and spending money and looking up to those who are rich, allegedly rich and successful, although frequently they have disastrous lives and there's quite a lot of tragedy in the background, but that's neither here nor there. When we're at school, we're there to be indoctrinated. So we're encouraged to believe that gold has the value that is put on it by those who manipulate it. We're encouraged to believe that we should have a bigger car, aspire to a bigger house, choose better company, whatever that means, and interpret valuable from the context and the perspective of the general norm in the society around us. And I think that's where things start to go wrong. Many people have the common sense, and common sense isn't as common as you might think, but many people have it in some degree, to see through this societal self-delusion, which is there for a purpose, and it's to manipulate people. And we're told, you'll see it in television and adverts and prize givings and all the rest of it, this item is worth such and such. Here we are. This is a motorcycle. It's worth £20,000. This is an Italian sports car. It's worth £500,000. Let me just, for the record, put you straight. Something is only worth whatever value you place on it, not what other people tell you it's worth, because these are often illusory and fictional. And once you start to get that perspective, things rapidly fall into place. So when you check out the people around you who have become materialistic and interpreting value in terms of possessions and accumulations, you'll find that they're people who don't necessarily have an awful lot of time or successful relationships on their hands. They may get lucky, people do. But by and large, if they have chosen to follow a materialist path, that is what they get. And I've known over the years some people who got very wealthy, but then spent a lot of money in private operations, some of which they didn't need, which have left them at the end of it in permanent physical discomfort. So having accumulated their wealth, their valuable stuff, they're surrounded with it. They're hardly even noticing it anymore because they're distracted by their own vulnerabilities, lack of health, and insecurities, because having spoiled their own family, the family are kicking back at them. And these people can often end up isolated because their very own families give more concern to material things than they do to people and relationships. The smart ones, on the other hand, and this really shows when you visit a care home, a nursing home, if you ever do so, and I recommend you do, just for the experience. Care home is one of these applied words. It's a suggestible word, in other words, here's a nursing home, it's called a care home, therefore we presume everybody inside it is being cared for. Well, not everywhere. Some places, yes, but not everywhere. So be aware of the power of words and word association, because it can be very, very distracting and misleading. It's like a magician's trick, Don't watch this hand, watch that hand. This hand's doing the magic trick, but this one's doing the theatre. It's called the art of misdirection. That's what it is. Anyway, I'm detouring a little bit there from my subject. More sensible and more grounded people very early on discover, one, the value of their own time, because time is precious, it is limited, and it's often squandered when we're young because it's natural inclination to do so. But they'll understand the value of time to themselves, time to share with those that care for them, whether it's family or friends or both. And they'll understand that to have enough, to be comfortable and to be healthy, to have enough in life is in fact to have a lot. And in fact, the additional sacrifice and the energy that goes into extra, unnecessary, additional things that apparently we were told have value is in fact fictitious and illusory. So what's really valuable? Well, personal security is valuable. In other words, to have a certain amount of material and monetary wealth as a cushion, as a blanket against the brutalities of poverty. And I'll give you a quote that I got from a friend who was a bit materialistic, a bit funny with it, and he just bought a ridiculous new car, a second-hand car, which caused him no end of trouble, by the way. It broke down on him. But even supercars can do that. And he says, well, that's all very well, you manage with less, but I couldn't manage without having, my lifestyle, as he called it. And he says, the thing about money is it's like dough, right? And this is a British term for money, calling it dough. It's like a shit sandwich. The more dough you've got, the less you taste the shite when you have to eat it. And it's a nice little, it's quite a harsh quote, and it's one that you definitely get from someone who was materialistic and wanted to, from their perspective, just put you in your place. Didn't quite work, of course. But to understand the essentials, having more time, using our time productively according to our own points of reference, without being overtly selfish about it. And the other thing is our health. Our health is so important, and so many people make the big mistake of not investing in the value of personal health by hammering their body when they're younger, eating whole loads of junk food, not sleeping enough, not resting enough, not taking enough time to connect with themselves. As a result of which, as they get older, the body starts to break up a bit, and then they make the mistake of rushing to the doctor, who will prescribe them not necessarily medications that they need, but medications that they feel they need and might be useful. So they start consuming painkillers, obvious example. But you've got to be so careful, because many pharmaceutical products that you can buy over the counter, if taken over the long term or in any way if taken in excess, can be very damaging for your future health. So it's getting the education, it's gaining and acquiring the knowledge from all directions, and understanding and tapping into our own personal wisdom. This is most valuable. And I would conclude by saying one of the most valuable things we can do is learn from other people's mistakes and looking accurately into the world around us, the ugliness in that world around us and the beauty of that world around us, and singularly, individually, and on our own points of reference, learn from that, because there is so much to be learned which is valuable. Knowledge is valuable, because over time knowledge morphs and reinforces wisdom, and that personal wisdom is the most wonderful, valuable thing any of us can possess, because we had to make it happen and it's only ours. And thereafter, if we have the inclination, we can share it with others. That's valuable. Don't be distracted. Don't be misled, gainers. Understand the value of valuable stuff in its real and true context, and not the illusory manifestations that you're encouraged to adopt, particularly when you're young. I'm Ralphie, out in the meadow, sharing my fitter philosophy, and it's beautiful, and the smell of blossom from the trees is in the air, and the birds are singing and busying themselves around their nests to guard and tend their eggs, and the sun is coming out and sparkling a million shades of light across the grass and trees. I'm Ralphie, thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon. I'll leave you with a view here, shall I? Just for a few seconds, because it's really quite nice.